I had some questions of what do I think about the brand new Sylvester Stallone, Chuck Dixon, Richard Meyer Expendables comic, and is it a game changer? Is it what does it mean for the industry, for crowdfunding, for everything? Well, first of all, I don't know why anybody cares about my opinion on the subject, but here I'm going to give it to you. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you've listened to the channel and you've heard a lot of my videos, then what I'm about to say will come as absolutely zero surprise to you. And that is, what is my opinion on this new Expendables Indiegogo crowd-funded campaign by Sylvester Stallone, Chuck Dixon, Richard C. Meyer? What do I think of it? What's my opinion and how do I feel? My opinion is I hope it's a good comic. I hope it's successful, and I hope it's a good read for people, and people who spend the money on the comic get what they want out of it, and that it's a good comic for them. That's really it. I mean, I could almost close the video here and say that's my hope. Um, for the record, that's my hope for every comic, all of them, 100% of them, no matter who's writing, drawing, creating, whether it's a big publisher or a crowdfunded comic or anything. I'm hoping for a good product out the other end that when I read it, I'm say, hey, I spent my time wisely. This was a good comic. I enjoyed it. That's my hope. And I think that the internet and social media and people in the comics community get very, very wrapped up around, we should like things for certain reasons, or, well, I want to like this, but I can't like it because that one creator said this one thing on social media this time, or this other person has a YouTube channel and they make disparaging comments to other people. And so therefore, I have to kind of retroactively go back and hate all the comics. I mean, one of the most absurd things that I've seen was somebody who was really taking the piss out of John Byrne and saying, I can no longer read any of John Byrne's comics because, on his message board, he's a complete jerk and he yells at fans. And now I can no longer look at Fantastic Four, and that's no longer a good comic. I've decided it is a bad comic now. And that attitude is so foreign to me. It's so strange to me that I can't even wrap my head around it. I just think that's a ludicrous way to go about your life. It's really moving everything from a position of hatred. Now, granted, if a creator or somebody does something particularly abhorrent and terrible and everything else, you may say, I don't want to support their work going forward. The creator blocks you or they just in for whatever reason, you should feel good about spending your money. It's a two-way street. I think you should be happy about the money you spend, and you should feel like you're putting money toward things that you enjoy, and you don't feel like you're held hostage by spending for your cash. At the same time, if you've already bought something, if you've got a comic in your shelf, I mean, the Mark Waid situation with creator of this Expendables comic, Richard Meyer, has people going, well, I can no longer look at Kingdom Come. I sold my copy. I got rid of it. It's now a trash comic. That's ridiculous. I mean, I just think that's first of all, it's your time as well, so you can do whatever you want with it. But I just think if you're trying to go back and play this shuffle game with what you like and don't like, and it's a no-win game, because eventually I think everyone, 100% of people, myself included, will disappoint you. So I just think it's a mistake to play that game. So therefore, I can very confidently say, regardless of your feelings of the of YouTube videos or Twitter drama or any of that kind of stuff, whatever nasty comments were said here and there, I've been pretty outspoken about my irritation when Richard Meyer on his Twitter account went after some comic shops and misidentified one of them that caused me some personal business pain. I think that's lousy. And I'm not making any, I'm not excusing any of that. But all of that is kind of in one bucket. And for me, the hoping for good comics is in another bucket. I hope 100% for good comics from everyone. Everyone. I want good comics to come out the end. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy them. If Eric Esquivel has his new comic coming out to this company, I'm not going to support that. But I still hope the product's good. I want him to do the best he can. I'm not going to sit here and go, I'm gonna, in advance hate the comic. I've not seen the comic, so that would be again a stupid thing for me to do. I can say I don't support the person without going into the comic. Now, in terms of this book in particular, there's some people saying, hey, there's a big name attached to it, Sylvester Stallone. And does this change the whole game for crowdfunding or Comicsgate or Meyer? Look, I'm not up to the latest scores on who's in and who's out of Comicsgate. I do not know if Meyer is. I don't. I thought he was not publishing under that brand and had distanced himself from it, but maybe he hasn't. I don't know. And he can do whatever he wants, and that's fine. I guess my point on is Stallone's involvement changed the game somewhat. Not as much as I think people think, and I'll explain why. It's been pretty common that publishers and creators and others have gotten a celebrity endorsement or gotten a known property and they've done a comic book out of it. And, you can look no further than the Marvel Comics J.J. Abrams and Son Spider-Man book that came out to a huge amount of fanfare and big marketing. And this is number one. It's a game changer of a major, major writer coming in to do something with Spider-Man, yes, and his son. And that was the big hype, and definitely a lot of attention. The first issue sold very, very well, and it was a moment. But the key there was moment. So if we fast forward a couple months later, Spider-Man 3 was late, Spider-Man 4 is kind of very late, and Spider-Man 5 is super late. And the momentum and energy behind that book has absolutely cooled on all fronts, both from the customer interest and from Marvel. Marvel is not promoting that book like they used to. It seems like it's kind of been forgotten in favor of other initiatives where they're barreling forward with, there's a new Wolverine and there's just a lot of other things that they're putting their focus on. So it feels like Marvel stepped away from that book. And so I think the lesson there is, yes, you can do a project with a known entity. And I would argue J.J. Abrams coming in to write a Spider-Man book is probably a bigger, news hype deal than Sylvester Stallone doing an Expendables crowdfunded book, just in terms of hotness of the properties and the people involved. It takes nothing away from Stallone or the Expendables. J.J. Abrams is riding a high right now in terms of just media attention. The bigger deal here is going to be if the book is delivered on time and if the book is what it says it's going to be. If it's marketed as a 30-page book and it's coming out in May and then it ships in May and it's a 30-page book, I think that over time is a bigger deal in many cases than if Stallone was involved in it. Now, again, some of you may be shaking your head going, I don't understand how anybody could say that. What crowdfunding needs, and I would argue what comics needs, because remember the example I just gave you with J.J. Abrams, the book is late. It's fallen off of the pulse of everyone now. And it's partly the buzz of the book wasn't that great and everything else, but also you need to have momentum from your books. I've done lots of videos on this. You have to ship on time and you have to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And if you can do that consistently, that's more credibility than anything. It's more credibility than going out and getting, various big projects. Now, will Stallone's involvement certainly help the funding of this? Absolutely. Will it generate some publicity and some hype? Yes, it will. But the comic industry readers and customers are also very aware of licensed properties, and I don't know the business relationship here. I don't know if the Expendables was licensed, it was a true partnership. Dixon has worked with Stallone before. In different business arrangements. So who knows what's actually happened here in terms of whether it's licensed or not. But typically with comics, a movie spinoff or a movie comic has not usually been amazing. There's been a couple very big success stories, Star Wars being a big one, obviously over the entire life cycle of Star Wars dating back to the 70s. But typically speaking, the movie tie-ins and the celebrity endorsements tend to have an initial big reaction and then fade, and then the comic is left to pretty normal factors. Is it good? Did it ship on time? Did it deliver what it said it was going to deliver? Those three things tend to be the deciding factor of whether it's a good book and remembered fondly or not. And so for this title, the biggest game changer, I think, is if this crowdfunded book can, raise a bunch of money, come out on time, have a pretty decent splash, be what people says, and they open it up. And, there's going to be some people who say, I don't like this writing, or I do like this writing, or I don't like this art, or I do like this art. All that, personal opinion is going to come into it. But if people can generally pick it up and go, hey, this wasn't a scam, pages were stapled in properly, art wasn't, grossly off the panel, and I may not like this art, but it's a quality book. If that's the outcome, then I think that provides a very strong amount of credibility to Meyer and to Dixon, certainly in this realm. But I think it also continues to build credibility and confidence in crowdfunding, which has not yet broken through that barrier of being a reliable thing as a whole for comic customers. So I think there's a big opportunity here because it shines a little bit of a spotlight on a comic, and it serves up an opportunity to ship a product on time and to spec. And so if I'm Dixon and if I'm Meyer right now, I would be working to make absolutely sure that the product I shipped was not, don't go for a home run, don't go for blow people away, go for give people exactly what they expect and ship it on time. And if you can do that, then the follow up to this is going to be more comics. It will be more high profile projects, other properties, other licensed goods, and other creators and celebrities and other things. And we'll look at this and say, hey, here's a way to make some money out of comics without having to deal with the minutia of Disney or AT&T or any of that. Here's a relatively straightforward path. Here's some people who can get that job done, and you will see more of it. It will build a business and a foundation. I am surprised, I guess not surprised at the same time, that the news attention, the comic news NEWZ attention, had the Brazinga, Esquivel story. Pretty much as soon as the post was written, several sites made articles hyping and in some cases rolling their eyes. But you had Bleeding Cool within minutes. Obviously they're connected to one of those two, but they were writing the article and promoting it. And to date, there you see far less articles written about this one. And again, without taking sides in the general culture war, I think it's pretty telling and pretty sad that two people who did pretty obvious gross things within the industry abused their positions by far. There's no qualms about going ahead and hyping them. And here you have Dixon, and yes, I know all the history with Meyer and all the rest. I understand why some people are irritated at him and everything else. However, I mean, not at the Esquivel level. I don't know. Everybody can kind of rank what irritates them and what doesn't, but I find it just pretty sad that people rushed to post articles about one and have been pretty radio silent on the other. Not surprising, but that's not a healthy sign for the industry that we're willing to protect our own even when our own are extremely gross individuals who did terrible things. I just think that's wrong. So there's my opinion on it. I think I can say all these things without wading into the do you like the guy, do you not like the guy. In the comments of videos, they've got people who are very passionate about your boy Zach in a positive way and in a negative way. As I said before, I've had I credit his success. I think he's done smart things with the crowdfunded comics he has, and he has a reputation for generally delivering on time. Pretty much, very, very, delays that are insignificant enough that you wouldn't call them delays. And at the same time, he's done some things that definitely I think are not right, and I wish that would be accounted for. But I think you can look at this situation, this comic, and everything fairly, and just try and assess, what does it really mean for quote unquote the industry, and how can it be helped? That's my opinion on it. What's yours? Hopefully, I didn't step into a big hornet's nest of emotions and things, but I'd like everybody to just leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of this comic. Does it change things? Do you agree with my analysis that it's ultimately the quality of the product and the shipping on time that will mean more in the long run than Stallone's name or the Expendables property? What do you think? Or if you disagree, you think I'm out of my mind, that's okay too. Let me know. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Always appreciate it. Leave me a comment below. I already asked for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. And thanks for listening.